1954 BAR 90-mile road race promoted by the San Diego Bicycle Club, promoted by Jerry Rimoldi. He did most all the work, got the course, and did all of the legwork to put the race together. This was in, if I recall right, in August. I had been actually riding some races in all of 1954, and in 1953 was riding mostly club races and a few ABL races. Most of the bikes were simplex Tour de France telescoping derailleurs, which had a life expectancy of 0 to maybe 10 rides. There were some really nice Italian bikes, all Campi equipped, that Bob Bergino in Los Angeles, which was Bob Tetzloff's coach and trainer, was bringing in. And then we had the Multine bikes brought in by the Hollywood bike shop, Hans Ort. The bikes also were brought in by Ed Lynch, brought in some French bikes also, but most everything was sew up. Some bikes had quick release, most of them had wing nuts. And later on, almost all the bikes progressed into 10-speed. Mine was a 4-speed Automoto, which was a popular bike back then.
What kind of brakes did they have?
Well, the brakes were usually either side pull, and then the Mayfac center pull brake started to be popular. The Bertine bike that Hans Ort brought in, some of those actually had welded on brake fixtures right onto the frame or fork. But later in the mid-50s, Bob Kemp started bringing in the Allegros, all Campi equipped, and they all of a sudden became the top bike. Tetzloff, who was kind of the king of the road at that time, or was becoming that as the Rhodes brothers moved out to Northern California. The Allegro, of course, was the top bike. Tetzloff rode the Italian bike with the all Campi stuff because his trainer supplied him with the equipment. Tetzloff was the closest to a professional rider at the time, and throughout his career, he dedicated most all of his efforts to cycling. The number of choices for bikes were pretty slim. We did have a few Paramount road bikes, but almost everybody rode a Paramount track bike, either made by Paramount in Chicago or a builder down in lower Chicago. And he was usually made the custom bikes for most of the riders, but almost everybody rode a Paramount track bike at the time. Yeah, bike racing in 1950s by and large was all track racing. Road racing was a sport that was not recognized by the ABLFA as a championships side of the sport. So everybody, if you wanted to be competitive, you had to ride the track. And at a 120-pound, 6-foot-tall kid, sprinting was a joke. It was impossible. You needed to have mountains and hills with that stature. But you'll see that most of the riders that had any type of recognition from the national organization, it would have been for track racing, which was an omnium, usually a half a mile, a 5 mile, 10 mile, and then whoever garnered the most points was the national champion. And this was all a carryover from the 6-day racing. Most all the riders were riding inch pitch chains, and you had usually a 23, a 24, a 25, and a 26 tooth front chain ring, and then you varied a 7, an 8, or a 9 tooth rear sprocket to get the gear ratio that you wanted. But everybody's mentality was 6-day racing, low gears. Jack Disney was the first one to come on the scene riding something other than an 88 or a 90-inch gear. He came on with a 96-inch gear and blew everybody away and forced all the other riders to now move up into the bigger gears if they wanted to go fast. So it was a interesting time. If you were a road rider like myself, you had a few opportunities to show yourself. Monte Park in near Lakeside in San Diego County, the start of the 90-mile bicycle race. It's fairly warm weather. The riders started out. We had, of course, the 2 national champions, the senior and junior riders, Jack Disney and Bob Zumwalt was the junior national champion. And we had a number of older riders. I believe Charlie Morton was even riding in this race. Even though he was a professional, he rode a lot of our races, but nobody talked about a professional riding in our race because the governing body would freak out and probably turn everybody that rode with him professional. This is a start. We had a real fancy sports car with a professional photographer in it taking pictures of the race, and later it was on television that night. The snippets. This is going into Lakeside, making the right-hand turn. This is the start of Muzzy Grade, and all of a sudden you can see there's a lot of separation between the riders. Jerry Rimoldi and I went to the front and rode side by side up the hill, and Jerry kept telling me to keep it not so fast because there was a long ways to go. I was pretty young and didn't know a thing like that. This is the turn down into the Poway area. That's the breakaway group, where on the way down that hill, I was at the back of the field with Tetzloff of our breakaway group, and there was an explosion, and I thought, oh great, Tetzloff blew a tire, and it turned out it was mine. And now that's the rest of the group of Rimoldi, Coxley, Tetzloff, Zumwalt, Criswell, and of course I was off because of the blown tire. They had to change my wheel, and I had a 4-speed and all they had was 5-speed, so when they put the wheel in, my derailleur didn't work, but in three different gears. And then we had the long climb. I think this is a 7-mile climb. This is the downhill going back down Muzzy Grade into Lakeside, going into the finish with the Rimoldi, Coxley, Tetzloff, Zumwalt, and Criswell. They were going down, which would be a final sprint to the finish, and we didn't have equipment following cars per se. If you got a flat tire, you had to change it and pump up your own tire. This is the finish. Tetzloff, Zumwalt, Criswell, Coxley, and Rimoldi just rolled off the back of the group. He didn't even contest the sprint. And these are the different riders coming in. I think it was Bill Jennings. That was me coming in. I think I got 9th place. But one of the riders, Johnny Armour, that had polio, could hardly walk, and he started riding a bike and then became very athletic and was very competitive. That's Tetzloff. That's Criswell. And the other one was Bob Zumwalt, Tetzloff, and Criswell. And that's Alvin Newart from St. Louis that was out here helping the bike racers. He used to work with the 6-day. That's Coxley from Los Angeles. Jerry Rimoldi. So you can see we had some pretty big trophies. I can't remember, this was a good racer. He was a really fast downhiller. He raced motorcycles. This is some races up on Kearney Mesa. These were just club races. You can see they're all on track bikes. I'm not sure who all it is, but it's the riders back in the early 50s at a training race.